today and talk a little bit about the Next Gen 911. Can you hear me?
Not very
Hello. Do I need to talk really close to the microphone?
So I'll try to use the microphone the whole time, but I'm going to kind of demo the Next Gen 911 portal. So holler out questions or whatever throughout the demo. Just a reminder, I'm Eileen Battles with the Kansas Data Access and Support Center. We're the state GIS clearinghouse for the state of Kansas. So we work on not just the Next Gen 911 project, but we work on projects with the Kansas Department of Revenue, Kansas State Historical Society, Department of Transportation, really anything that has a geographic or GIS element to it, our office is generally involved with. So that's kind of how we got into this Next Gen 911. Okay, so I'm just going to go through. First of all, I've got to ask my usual question, has everyone got a Next Gen 911 portal account? Is everyone here registered with an account? Okay, great, so you're going to have some good questions for me today. So I just wanted to go through and do some reminders of account maintenance, where to find some things, and then take any questions you might have as well. So the first thing I always like to point out is, of course, the URL, which is portal.kansas911.org. I had someone recently email me and said they couldn't find the portal, so you might bookmark that if you haven't already to be able to log in. So to access the portal, you have to register for an account, which is the first thing it sounds like most of you have already done. It's your usual contact information kind of form. It asks you what PSAP you represent, if that's appropriate, which would be most everyone in this room. We just recently added this category for the public safety dispatch centers that are just a little bit unique, whether it's university or tribal or something like that. So we're allowing them to start registering on the portal as well. We also have registration for telecom service providers. We ask them to now submit their fees through the portal as well. So we're getting those monthly submissions through the telephone service providers. So in your registration, you get to define your username, but not your password. So once you fill out the entire registration form and you defined your username, you actually get approved to be allowed to have an account on the portal. And we did that for security purposes, so we really knew who was registering on the portal, could kind of keep track. We've actually had a couple kind of unknowns try to register that we've not approved. So it's kind of working. That's exactly the point of it, was to make sure that we knew who was registering and if they were appropriate, and also just to make sure you selected the appropriate role as well. So that's why when you register, once you're approved, you then receive an email with a password. And I know the password is not the easiest, friendliest, I see a lot of heads nodding, version, but it's encrypted and it's that way on purpose. So it's kind of a nasty password, and if you forget it, you actually have to go to the front page and reset it. So I can't look it up for you because it's encrypted. So security procedures, but kind of the nature of the beast there. Another part of the registration I wanted to point out is roles. So as you're probably finding out, a lot of things that control access, as well as how you're notified on the portal, is through your role. So things like anything GIS related would always go out to the maintainer and stewards, and sometimes the PSAP administration or operations manager. If you check at the bottom that you want to be an expenditure report, then you would get a different version of notifications for that. Or if you're PSAP administrator or operations manager, we send out notifications for that. So your role really controls what you have access to in the portal, as well as how you receive notifications. So, and you can't change your role in the portal once it's set, but I can change it for you. So if a role changes, like we've had several PSAPs say, I'd really like to add my PSAP operation manager also as a GIS data steward, and that's perfectly acceptable. So just let myself or Lori know, and we can add those roles if appropriate to your registration, to your account information. So any questions about roles or that part of the registration? Okay, and there's a little definition. Once you hover over, it'll tell you all the different roles and things. And that helps us keep track too, because we have the telephone service providers and different groups coming in registering, and a lot of times they'll say, oh yeah, I'm a GIS data maintainer, and it's like, well, not exactly, not for this purpose. So we kind of have to manage those roles and make sure everyone is choosing the right thing. So the rest of the registration is pretty standard, it's just your standard contact information. And once you have all that filled out, if you are going to be submitting expenditures on behalf of your PSAP, be sure and check this little box down here. we found that expenditures are not necessarily tied to a role. So it could be someone working in the office doing work on behalf of the PSAP, it could be the PSAP operations manager, it could be, who knows who. So that's why this one isn't specifically a role, but it's just an add-on for those permissions. So be sure and check that if that's appropriate. Okay, so let me just go back here and actually log in. Okay, so I have to set this down for a second. So that's not registration? Oh, yeah, the one on my list, yeah. Okay, just logging in here with my nasty password, one just like you guys. Oops, I didn't type it in right. That just shows, doesn't it? Okay. All right, second time's a charm. Okay, so the screens I'll be showing you, I have access to everything. So you're probably going to be seeing a lot more than you can, and I'll kind of explain that as we go through. First little bit, just administrators can see this is where we know if someone's waiting to be approved or keep track of contracts or different things that we also manage in the portal. So that's where I can see this little information here. One nifty feature I wanted to point out here around the home page is this would be just for your particular PSAP, but this is a nice way to invite someone to register on the portal. So let's say you can see your list, if you're the operations manager or administrator, you can see your list of everyone registered for your PSAP. If you're like, oh, I really need, that new vendor or new employee to register on the portal, you can actually invite them to register by clicking on this drop-down menu and just selecting new user, and then select what you think their appropriate role is, and fill out their information here. So what that does is that will email that person and ask them to then complete that registration on the portal. So the invite does not officially make their registration, it just invites them to register. So they still need to go in and follow the whole register my account and wait for the email and all that fun stuff. But this has been really effective for some people being like, oh sure, yeah, I know I need to register, where's that portal, what is it? This is a great way to go like, well, let me send you an email, and you'll know exactly, the email contains the link on how to register and everything. So kind of a nice way to get people registered. That's been used quite a bit. One thing that Lori mentioned, which I want to make sure I point out too, is Chrome is the preferred browser. I know some of you don't have total control over that, but we try to keep the portal up to date in every browser out there, but that's quite a job, I found out, working with our web developers. So Chrome is generally the one that's the most up to date and that's easiest to adhere to on all the different things changing. But if you ever run into something, we've had some people run into issues of registering through Internet Explorer or something else, just let us know and we'll look into it and see. Internet Explorer really likes to do these sudden little updates and changes, but not let developers know. So it's usually kind of a surprise when things change there. But just let us know and we'll look into it for you. Let's see here, some roles. Okay, so every PSAP at minimum should have a PSAP operations manager, a PSAP GIS data steward, as well as a GIS data maintainer registered. So I think we still have a couple PSAPs that might not have a steward assigned. We're down to maybe one or two. So if anyone's questioning who you have registered or what roles they have, everything, if you're the operations manager or administrator, you can see that on this front page, or you can always contact Lori and I and ask who actually is registered for your PSAP as well. That would help you. Okay, so I always want to point out your user profile. How important it is to keep this up to date. So for a couple reasons. So first of all, this is how we contact you with any major announcements or notifications from the portal. This is all blasted out based on your role, important information. Another thing is this information is actually harvested and used as the PSAP contact list in the Kansas 911 Coordinating Council's website. So those would be the PSAP operations managers, administrators. So those roles, that information is actually pulled from our database and used in the contact information for that website. So another important reason to keep that contact information up to date. And one very important thing here is this part about outage notification right here in the middle. So we added outage notification, oh gosh, probably a year, maybe over a year ago now. So this has been a great way for Scott, Phil, whoever needs to send out a major announcement if there isn't an outage, to pretty much everyone gets these for an outage notification. He can make it, send it out to specific roles or groups if needed, but it's a way to send out this information to everyone. So when he does that, it can be sent via email, you can get a text, you can also get a voice message to be notified of all those outage notifications. So with your registration, you default to just getting it as an email. So we highly encourage everyone to go in here and go and check and add text and voice to that notification. So it's you know, kind of impressive, you know, we hate for those outage notifications to have to go out, but it's pretty amazing when they do, that suddenly my phone blings, I get an email, and then I get a missed voicemail, and you're like, wow. So I get notified about every which way possible. And that's a great way too, because if you're on the road, you can get it however's easiest for you, because we're usually not all sitting there waiting for an email to come through. So I highly encourage everyone to go through and add those options there. Another thing is, we keep track of who is, so not only keep your information up to date, but let's say you do have an employee leave. Lori and I can deactivate their account, so if you just contact us and let us know, we want to make sure and do that in the portal. It won't lose any of the information they've submitted because we realize that they have, you know, items that they might have submitted for expenditures or GIS data or whatever it might be. But we'll at least deactivate it so that won't ever be submitted through that account anymore. So just let us know, and we will certainly take care of that for you. Okay, let's see here. Another thing I want to mention, which I think a lot of you are getting more and more of, are GIS data requests. So we put together this interface because, as you know, we have great GIS data now, statewide. So once the word gets out, then all sorts of people would love to get a hold of that GIS data. And we found this as a way, because we have getting calls, and people saying, oh, how do I get that data? Can you just give me a copy? And to really honor the MOUs that are signed between the Coordinating Council and the PSAPs, you guys are in charge of that data and who gets a copy of it. So we found this as a way that we can facilitate those requests. So anyone can register for an account. Generally, if someone registers for an account from like a trucking company or something like that that's nothing to do with Next Gen 911, this is one of the only modules they can see on the portal. They could, I think, file a change order request if they really wanted to for the 911 system, and they can submit a GIS data request. So we asked them to go in here. It auto-populates information about their login. They can choose which data layers they would like to request. The data layers that are included in this list are just the core data layers. So we've had some people say, oh, I don't want them asking for my parcels. Well, that's not part of the core Next Gen 911 data layer, so it's not even in the list. Excuse me. So they can't even request that through this interface. So they request which data layers they would like from the GIS data, a little bit about file format, and then we ask them to be pretty robust in their purpose, because that's the best way for you guys to decide if you want to approve the request or not. So ask them to include a description, what area they're interested in. We also added this on behalf of, because we had some private companies requesting data and letting us know they're doing it on behalf of a PSAP, which is fine. But if a private company comes in and says we're requesting this data on behalf of another PSAP, we still contact that PSAP and say, hey, are they actually getting this data on your behalf before we go through with the request. So what happens once they submit that is you'll get to see kind of the behind the scenes stuff. So this is the admin screen that I see, and I'll see that these are the pending data requests. Once we go in there, let's just look at this one. This is one we sent out on behalf of Department of Transportation, the U.S. Department of Transportation. I can actually go in and see a list of it. Keeps me a tally of who's responded, who's approved, who's denied this particular request. So the nifty thing is we have all sorts of stuff scripted behind the scenes. So once we've hit the deadline on this request, getting a response from you all on this, we will just script out, and everyone that approved the request, that data would be pulled and then distributed. Everyone who denied it or did not respond will not be distributed. So I guess that's a little peace of mind if you're like, well, we had that request, but so-and-so was out of the office, and I don't think we replied. If you don't reply, that will not be included. So it's just those that approve the data request that goes out. I will tell you your data is very popular, especially certain companies that are trying to improve their routing or their address locations or things like that. They're really interested in in that particular data. I think a couple of the most recent ones, like I said, I sent out a request on behalf of the U.S. Department of Transportation for their National Address Database Program. You often see things from Max Pendergrass, who's with the Kansas One call. He's looking for information for data. And then I think we just had one from FEMA as well for address points. So it's really interesting to kind of see those requests come through and see kind of what the purpose of the data is, and then allow them access if you permit it to that information. So any questions on data requests and how we do that and how that kind of flows through? So when we get these requests, we send out the information on to approve or deny to the GIS data stewards. That's who gets that. So if you have more than one steward, multiple people will get that request for that information. Okay, so a little bit about data requests. All right, so one other thing I wanted to talk about was the ESN map. So has anyone gotten a request to review your ESN responder areas that you've been migrating over to the EZNet? Okay, a few of you have gotten that. So we put this together while we're in this transition phase. So we're migrating from the traditional hosted calling solution to the transitional phase before we're in full I3 geospatial call routing. We're kind of merging a couple worlds here for a little while. So what we needed was a way for the PSAPs to review your ESN boundaries, which are kind of abstract. I know those are kind of funky to look at, as well as your fire, law, and EMS information as it comes from legacy AT&T database. So this is not coming from your GIS data at this point. It will be once we go to full I3 geospatial call routing. But during this transition, we're having to make sure the AT&T database is up to date, so that when your call handlers are going to call, this is what they're seeing on their alley spill. So this is actual information from the AT&T database. So we wanted to give everyone the opportunity to update this information. So we put together this little interactive map. So let's see, let me see if I can find someone that hasn't submitted yet here real quick. Let's try. I think everyone's done a good job of submitting their data. How about elk? All right, so how this is being distributed, we're following the EZNet cut schedule, basically. So as those PSAPs are being scheduled, we're sending this notification out. So if you've not gotten this notification yet, that's okay, because that means you're still on the cut schedule. We're trying to stay a little bit ahead of that, so it's kind of at the same timeline. For those of you that have gotten this, that means that you've cut or you're soon to be cut over to the EZNet for the solution. So this is what it looks like. This is Elk County, this is my example. So we sent an announcement saying, will you take a look at all of your boundaries as well as the information in those boundaries? So again, this is the fire, EMS, and law as it comes from the AT&T database for the alley spill. So it's pretty simple to interface. When we send out the announcement, we also send out some instructions and a recorded video to let you go through that and kind of take a look at that information. But what you do then is you click on a particular area, it'll highlight it and zoom to the area for you, and it'll list the law, fire, EMS contacts or names that we have according to the AT&T database for that area. So we're asking you to review those and then let us know if either it needs correction or there are no changes. And if it does need correction, we're asking that you put some notes in the comment like fire should be Elk County fire, whatever the case might be, so that we know exactly what those changes are. And then we ask you to go through and do that for every single boundary you have here. And some of these you got to zoom in on because you get into some smaller cities. Some people are like, oh, it says I'm not done yet. I can't find that one little area that's not submitted for. And the nifty thing about this, I'll just show this real quick, is that once you click on one, and let's say you say it needs correction, and I'll put test so I can tell Kelly to take this out for me when I'm done here. And then once you hit confirm, it'll change the color for you, so know what you've done. So there's a little legend over here to let you know if it's been reviewed, it's yellow, needs correction is orange, or no changes is green. So that's a handy visual way to go through the map and know where you're at exactly on this review. So at the end of that whole review, after you've gone through entire county, we ask you if you have any other comments to leave it here, like, hey, I need to check on something, so I'll let you know that final answer, or whatever the case might be. You can always save for later if you need to check something or you just don't have enough time to complete it at that time, that's fine. But we do ask when you're officially done with the review to click this review complete and then hit save, and then that will let us know that we can go to the next step. And so the next step is Sherry Massey, who's the co-chair of the GIS committee, she'll take that information and she works with AT&T on getting that updated on the other end, so that when you switch over to EZNet, that information is correct for your call handler. So there really is a method to this madness here of all these different review. It's kind of confusing, I agree, that you're like, well, but my GIS data is right, so why does it say this here? It's just for this transition time. So again, once we go to full I3 geospatial call routing, once release 7.2 is ready, then we'll be pulling truly from all GIS data at that point in time. So kind of just getting us over the hump here to get that done. Okay, I think those are my main points. Lori, if you wanted to then talk about, Lori wanted to talk about a couple more things on the portal, and so I'm just going to click for her while you talk.
With the microphone? Sure.
Well, first of all, any questions for me on the items I talked about before we move on?
Go back to your home screen.
Mhm.
There is the link to that CNO MOA spreadsheet right there at the top.
Anything that's across the board useful, we try to put links right here, not to overwhelm this page, but at least it's something we think everyone needs access to. We'll put right here on the home page, though. Good point. Okay, I'll hand it over to Lori.
Can you go to the, open another tab and go to just our website? So I wanted to show you on the website, if for some reason you can't get to the portal, have any issues typing in portal.kansas911.org, which I've had a few people that say they can't get there by typing that in, you can go to our website and then click Kansas 911 portal there in that corner, and that'll take you to it as well. The other thing, on the PSAP list, what we pull from the website, the third one there.
Yeah.
So if you click on that, that's where we pull your information from the portal to. So I don't recommend you put in your home address on there. Make sure you do put in your business address. We do not pull the cell phone numbers, so if you put your cell phone number in, that way you get the text notification, you get the phone call. So do put in your cell phones, but know that it does not go out to the website. Okay, so we're going back to the portal and talk about what everybody's favorite topic is, the expenditures. So it's under admin.
This page always takes a second or two because there's a lot of information on this particular page now.
So by March 1st of every year, the expenditure report is due. You can be working on this all year long. Some PSAPs do, some choose to wait until the end of time there, but if you go in here, the first tab you're going to come to is your revenue and balance. A lot of people forget this one, so if you haven't completed this over the past couple years or for 2017, you can go in and edit this page at any time. This one's not locked down. So you can just go in here and put in, you need to select, well, you need to put in if you have any pre-911 money. We have both the landline and wireless, so that needs to be put in separately. Your current year 911 fees received, any interest you may have received. The other reimbursement, that spot is for if you had to reimburse your 911 account or if you just put some money in there. I think, not to throw Sarah out here, but you had a question on where you put some money if you received some from the fire departments paying for their share on something, and this is where you would put that amount in that other reimbursement. And then whatever your 911 fund balance was as of December 31st of 2017 should have went in there, and you hit save, and then you're done. Again, this one's not locked down, so if you need to change something, you can go back in and just change it, and then hit save. So, expenditures, then change the date to whatever the date of the invoice is. And we do have the boxes that'll pop up to help you out if you have any questions. If you are an agency that chooses to, say, take all of your AT&T bills or 12 months of a particular invoice that you get, you can add those 12 months up and then put that in here. Just put the date as 12/31 of whatever year it is. So if you're reporting on 2017, just 12/31 of 17, and then the total amount of those 12 invoices. You need to select what type it is, for the category the expenditure is, whether it's a reoccurring cost such as your phone bill, any equipment, training, or other. Free form there on vendor, so just type in whatever the vendor name is. Your PSAP will automatically be populated here. Again, we have admin rights, so we're able to see everything. Whether that fund is post 911 money or pre 911 money. And then your next is the allowable use, and there's those 8 allowable uses. You need to select one of those. Description. So we ask that you please be very descriptive on this. So is that phone bill, is it a 911 trunk, 911 circuit charges, is it 911 admin lines? What is it you're paying for? If it's tower, don't just put tower on there. What is this? Is it radio infrastructure, for communicating with the first responders? We need to be specific. And if you need more room, you can put it under comments. Comments is not required, but if you need additional place to type out something, you have that there. And then you're going to hit save. Make sure you hit that save button after each one, because if you go back in and start typing and you haven't hit save, all that work is for nothing. And then that will put that invoice that you've entered, you should see it show up down below there.
Lori, I have a question.
Yeah.
It seems a little redundant. Why do we have to click on equipment and then go down to allowable use and hit equipment? Or click on reoccurring cost or type and then go and allowable and click on that cost? Are you guys doing something different with that information? Why we're entering it twice?
Good question, I'm looking at.
I think the radio buttons are used in different queries for reporting out on those.
Different queries for reporting out. The filter area over there is if you wanted to search for something. So if you just want to go back and look at all your 2017 expenses or see what you did in a prior year, that's to look at all your previous information, but it doesn't have anything to do with making your entry for the expenditures. And then you can pull reports for that. Let's see, then, if you need to delete an entry that you've made, you need to go down in the below here, highlight it, and then you should be able to edit anything that's on that. So we would have to have, the PSAP selected. So, obviously, your PSAP would be selected, so it'd be there for you. So once you're all done entering your expenditures, you'll go to that annual submission tab, and this is an area that some people forget. It'll say, all my 2017 expenditures have been entered and they're ready for submission. So you'll click that button. You have to do that, otherwise it's not going to notify me that you've completed your report. In addition to that, once you hit that, you're going to get back an email that tells you, thanks for completing your report. Now I have more work for you. We now have an audit, and we need to have 5 invoices uploaded. It randomly picks it. I don't go in and do anything with it. So if you are an agency that does those 12 invoices on one, don't upload 12 invoices. Just pick a month and submit it for me. I tell people, pick your birth month, throw that one in there and put that invoice on there rather than all 12 of them. General expenditures. This one is not required. We do have a few PSAPs that choose to do this, though. You're welcome to put all your general expenditures in here. It helps us out with providing data. Scott uses it regularly for reports. Works the exact same as the other, entering your invoices or entering your expenditures. Brandy's good at doing this.
But I asked about them.
All right.
And if you want to just do this, like at the end of the year, and just do it by category, like personnel, and then a total amount for that, and equipment, total amount for that, I'm fine with that as well. I'm looking for the numbers, I'm not looking for individual expenditures.
So the issues tab is where you will see those invoices that you need to upload. We do have a how-to video there, and sorry, it's a YouTube video, you get to hear my voice on that, walking you through the process of how to do that. So if you ever forget how to do that, you can open that link and walk through it. It's pretty easy, but if you have any issues on anything, and this could be even not necessarily just those 5 invoices, but anything that we have questions on. Maybe we had a few more that we needed a little bit more of a descriptor on what the expenditure, what that expenditure was. So we may ask it, and you'll go to this tab and just respond.
Well, how long does it take to fill those out? I sent invoices in 2 or 3 months ago, they're still sitting up there saying that they need information on them.
There's several that are open right now because we have some questions out to our attorney, and we're waiting to go through that process on what's an allowable expenditure. There's a couple that were questioned. We're going to have a full council meeting where everybody votes on it. So that's the reason a couple of them are still open. Pre-approvals, the next tab up there.
Can I make a clarification on that?
Yes, please.
The whole process is pending. It doesn't necessarily mean an individual upload is questioned. The whole process on how we do it is seeking an overhaul, oversight, and new guidance developed or confirmed. So if don't let that scare you, what she just said. It doesn't mean that, like, crud, one of mine is red marked, the entire process. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I just kind of stopped working on them because we're waiting on that answer, so. So it's not anybody in particular. There's very few of them out there that are being, really looked at hard. The majority of them are great, there's no problem with. It's just the whole process is being looked at, so. We're kind of at a standstill. This works pretty much the same as uploading. Well, it does work the exact same as uploading the invoices. If you have a invoice or some kind of documentation you want us to look at when you're asking for pre-approval, you can upload that here. Those are not able to be seen by anyone else. So if you have some kind of special pricing you're getting and nobody else can see those documents, but everybody can see the questions on here. So if you have any questions, you could come in here and see someone else ask a question on something. You can come in and look at the rest of these, and maybe your question's already been answered. We prefer you use this method instead of just emailing me or emailing Scott. If you can, just go in here into the portal, submit your question here, and then hit submit. I've been trying to go back in when I do get questions by email and putting it in here, and that's why the on behalf of is there. So I can select which PSAP it is that asks the question.
I have a question. As you guys are using this pre-approval request list, would it be helpful for us to put some sort of I'll have to talk to our web developer about this, but some sort of filters so that you could quickly say, hey, if someone submitted a question on firewall, or, I think that she can probably glean certain, I'll have to to talk about that, certain information out there, or is it easier just to browse through and kind of look at all the questions versus try to do a search kind of a thing? I guess, how's it being used? Search would be nice, okay, I would think that, yeah, she could put some sort of search up here so that you could quickly try to find that information. Okay, I'll talk to her about that.
We find lots of work for Kelly to do.
Every time I'm like, hey, we can do something else there.
And the appeal process, that's something that we're still working through yet, so ignore that. I don't know if anyone can see that anyway.
Yeah, maybe not yet.
That's all I have on the expenditures. Any questions on expenditures? All right. So DDS is the next topic on here. So this is for the, those on the call handling. You will come in here to get your usernames and passwords for the Vesta. We do have instructions up there in the left-hand corner of this, so if you forget how to do it, you can click on that and you'll get a PDF on how to do it. It does give you, as you hover over everything, some hints on how to put this in. We're trying to, well, we're not trying, we are. Every agency should start out with your 4-letter county code, and then whatever you want to use as your IDs. You can make it simple, easy with the short, maybe SoCal counting here, for example, CLCO, if I was your employee, you might use LAA for the initials. Maybe you have numbers assigned to your dispatchers, so CLCO, 9704, whatever that number may be in your PSAP. You could use the last name. No special characters in this field. Your PSAP will automatically be filled in there. First and last name, pretty easy there. And then whatever password that you want to assign to that dispatcher to sign in with. Make it fairly simple, because we know there's always one or two that always forget their passwords. So, no special characters on passwords. We do request that you have it be at least 8 characters, kind of trying to be CJIS compliant there. It shouldn't be the same as the username. And then you're going to select the person's role. Are they a call taker or are they a supervisor? Call takers can simply take calls, answer the phone, transfer calls, anything to process that phone call. Your supervisors would be able to go in and make changes to the layout, add people to the dial directory, things like that the supervisor can do. So you'll need to pick which role. And then your next option is either to add, change, or remove your users. As you're adding users, obviously that's add user. Change existing user, somebody forgets a password, you'll come back in here, and you don't have to fill out the entire form the next time, but at least put their username in, and then whatever new password you want to change it to. And then as people leave your PSAP, please come back in and let's try to keep that cleaned up and remove those users. Again, once you've got them in the system, you don't need to fill out the entire form to remove someone or change someone, at least their username. You have to put in some kind of comment or it won't save. So something, no longer employed here, forgot password, whatever the case may be, and hit save. To know that it went, you will get an email. If you don't get an email, something you have to go back and fix on your form. But you should get an email showing you that it went through. The Tiger team gets the email, Scott and I get the email. And then once they have entered your user, then you'll get an email, a follow-up email showing that it's complete. Usually they're pretty quick, usually done in a day or two. If it takes longer than that, email me. I can see what's going on. Could be they're all tied up on something and just, overlooked it. Any questions on the DDS?
Lori, is there a way to see our current employees that's in there?
I have a list for the South team, so I can let you know what I've got on that.
Does there see it here because we don't save these records. Once it's sent to the Tiger team, it's not stored in the database.
And I don't see the passwords at all, so,
Yeah, I just wondered if I have all my previous employees out there.
yeah. I did get a list for the south team. I'm still trying to get one for the north yet, so we can try and keep that cleaned up, so I'll get that to you.
A couple more things I wanted to mention. Any questions first before we move on DDS and expenditures? That? Or if any portal question comes up at any time, just, holler it out first. I wanted to always point out the change order. This is available to anyone that actually is registered on the portal. So the idea behind this is you can go in if you have a suggestion for a change, whether it's a policy or a lot of times we'll get submissions here for something they want to change in the GIS data model. Maybe they want to change a domain or change something about specific data. That information is entered here. So it doesn't have to be GIS related. You just go in and pick what kind of a change you have in the program area. So, whether it's governance or equipment or whatever the case might be, and go and submit this request. You can upload a file if you need some more information, you want to share some more information on the reason for your change order request. And what this does, it's kind of a neat process. This automatically emails the first group, I think especially Lori and a few others that get the first hit that the change order request has been submitted, and then it filters down to the program area where you submitted that change for. So then the next group, the chairs of those committees are notified to review that change. So there's no way we can ignore you if you submit a change order request through the portal. So if you have something you have in mind that you want to submit a change for, this is the way to do it through the portal. Let's see here. One other thing, I know Scott's going to talk about Rapid Light later, but Scott, did you want me to show this later where you can request use here, or is this something?
Yeah, this is how you request the
We can say.
agent accounts on Rapid Light. Just go in and select your PSAP. If it's not showing, it'll typically be showing, and then drop down the name list and pick out whoever it is that's going to be the account holder. It'll default in the email address that's associated with that name on the portal. You hit submit, I get an email telling me it's there, and then I can go in and create your account in Rapid Light.
And can everyone see this, Scott, or is it just the operation managers and administrators?
I believe it's PSAP managers and administrators.
Okay, so it's right here in the menu, so if you feel that you should have access to that and you don't see it when you log in, just let us know. We'll figure out if it's a role-based thing, why you're not seeing that. So there's just tons more I could show you on the portal, but it may or may not be something that applies to you. Just so you know, kind of an overall view, there's a lot of things we do. This is all the things we do for keeping track of emailing users, so we can email them by groups or by roles or add information to that. And then administratively, there's just gobs we do behind the scenes. When someone uploads their GIS data, there's a lot of scripts that run behind the scenes on that. So there's some nifty tools here. You can kind of see a little bit behind the scenes what we see when they submit data. So if you are a GIS data steward, you could also see the screen where you can see kind of a list of data that's been submitted. And for just the admin purposes, then we can quickly look at statistics so we know where we're at for our quarterly submissions on the number of PSAPs that have submitted their data or what type of changes have been submitted, things like that. So there's a lot of reporting behind the scenes here that happens that's not as exciting to demo and look at, but we think it's really awesome stuff that we need. One other thing I should mention is, so this is how I track when I do an update for your Vesta Locate template, the call handlers map. This is the interface I use on the portal. So what happens is, once I update that information, I will input a date and some just basic notes of what I updated. And when I hit save, that sends an email notification to your, I think it's your operation manager as well as your data steward to let them know that a new template has been published. Depends on the host you're on, how quickly that template's available. Since you don't get the little pop-up notification anymore, it's just that you need to know that, have a standard operating procedure that you restart the map daily or with shift change or whatever your standard procedure is. But once you get this notification, just know that either within an hour or two or within the next day, you'll have an update available. So you want to make sure and restart Vesta Locate to get that update. So that's how that information goes out. So I think that's the bulk of what I have. Any questions, portal related or GIS related? I can help with that. That part of stuff. So okay, we are a little early on our time.
Really early, yeah.
I could really talk to the portal about like for hours, but I don't know if you want to hear all the through some details behind the scenes. So